Y'all know many of my fans been asking what happened at Elias versus Toma, UFC 300. I'll tell you exactly what happened. There's a lot of crookedness going on behind the scenes. I'll start off when that fight happened. It was on short notice for both of us. I don't care what anybody says. Both of us were on short notice. UFC 300 was supposed to be against, Joey Hernandez. Everybody knows him. He's just been a walking L recently. I'm not even going to get into that. But this was back when he was on top. He just beat in Jimmy. He's tearing the division apart. All he needed was the belt. And I was the one who had the belt. And so I came back to fight him. And we had a fight scheduled. We officialized the fight at the beginning of 2018. And the fight was supposed to be on March 31st. 2 months this guy had to prepare for this fight. Now, I was preparing for a specific style. I had Joey's style set in place because my style, my fight IQ is a nightmare for him, right? So I was preparing for him just for this guy. And at fight week, we were finally going to fight. He didn't show up. He didn't do his end of the bargain. I don't care what he says. He was supposed to make a deposit, and he just, he didn't. He didn't follow through with the contract. And so, obviously, what he was hoping that would happen is that we would let him slide with that. But we had to make sure, that's not going to happen. We agreed to this. We have everything on contract. So you know what? The fight got canceled. But the show was still going to go on. Now, this is where me and my team made the mistake. We should have rescheduled the fight to a later date, maybe next week, till we sort those things out. This is where we made the mistake, because instead we were looking for a replacement. And the only person who fit the description for the right replacement of this magnitude of fight was Toma. So he actually came back from retirement. And he came back, he took this fight. It was going to be our first official fight on UFC 3. And, right off the bat, it was sketchy negotiations. Because we were supposed to make it a MMA match. Because the fight with Joey was a boxing match. This was supposed to be an MMA match. This didn't become an MMA match because he wanted it to be strictly boxing. So right off the bat, he was already barking up a tree and writing a check that his mouth can't cash in because he's not the A side. He wasn't the A side. But you know what? This is how dominant we were in the business. We said, you know what? Fine, whatever. It was supposed to be an MMA match. We said, you know what? All right, keep it boxing. Keep it the way it should be. Now, he wanted to switch the boxing rules, right? So when you do boxing, clinches are allowed. I don't care what anybody says. Whether it be for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, just don't throw no knees, no elbows. You clinch for whatever situation. Maybe it's part of a plan. Maybe it's to save yourself. Maybe it's to get in to close in the gap. Whatever it may be, you clinch up in boxing. Okay? As long as you ain't throwing knees and elbows, you're all right. This guy was so afraid that he said, you know what? I don't want any clinches. So we went back and forth for an hour, or maybe even 2 hours. And we said, you know what? This guy is obviously not going to budge. So fine, no clinches. So we said no clinches. And we even went to the point where we bumped up the money. It was $20 million. We bumped it up to $50 million. And that's how we knew we got a fight. Now, the day of the fight was a very inconvenient day for me because we should have rescheduled this perhaps on a Friday or Sunday or maybe even any other day, because I had a bad training camp day, and when I got home the next day was a fight. I was just tired. I got home, I was tired, and I wasn't mentally there, and then next thing I know, I was supposed to take on this big huge fight in UFC 300. And it was just a a bad camp. I wasn't mentally there. There's a saying, if you don't get enough sleep and you compete, the punch that you've taken, you might have not taken if you got a actual good night's sleep, rather than, if you cut your sleep. And the same goes if you're tired. So I was just exhausted. I overtrained, and then I got home, and then I had to show up to UFC 300, and it was just such an inconvenient time. And I still showed up. I didn't complain. I still showed up. And when I showed up, we fought it down, and right off the bat, everything was rigged, because Toma went in there, just, he didn't even go in there with any expectations. I went in there with expectations, because when I was training for the original fight, when I switched my training to Toma, I had a spy in the camp. And so when I had a spy in the camp, it totally changes everything. So I had these expectations that I was going to do this to him, and I was going to do that and that, because I was training with somebody who was giving me false information. He was telling me, oh yeah, just do this, you'll be okay. Just do that, okay. So we would practice these drills, and we would do this and that and that. And eventually, obviously, that is not the way Toma came into the fight. So the only thing I could do was what I already, was already used to doing, what I trained to do. There's no adjustments of the game plan. I should have went in there with multiple options, but I was given false information, and I was also given a spy who was giving information from my camp to his camp. So everything was just all, a whole big corrupt commotion. And then, just the weight cut and everything wasn't good. So everything was just bad. He never beat me 100% because I was still jabbing his head off. First round, I don't even know why. I could put on a perfect first round like that and work the lead hand, and then the second round, it's just, it's totally bogus, because I never lost that 100%, because he couldn't take me on while I was 100%. He had to negotiate certain things to keep him alive during the fight. He took out clinches. He wanted this specific day. He didn't even want an MMA match, right? I'm an MMA fighter. He wanted a boxing match. He even sent somebody who always, likes to stick their nose in places they don't belong. He sent them to my camp, false information, whether it was intentional or not, I don't know. But, I will take the blame that most of those things were on my team's fault. We shouldn't have listened to a spy. We shouldn't have, negotiated much with them. And we shouldn't have, we should have, made everything into our favor. It should have been an MMA match. It should have been everything allowed. It should have been the right time. It should have been, everything should have played out into our favor. But, that's the name of the game. Sometimes those things happen. So that's what really happened at UFC 300. Other than that, there's nothing much else to it. But let's see what's going to happen in the future. I'm Elias, and I'm out.